Okay, well, it's 2:31, so Eastern time, 11:31 Pacific, and at some point there in between, depending where you are across the country today. So good morning or afternoon, wherever you might be. Bonjour et bienvenue. My name is Lee, and I'm very happy to welcome you to the official launch of Youth Powering Community, a year-long initiative that's going to connect and empower young people making positive social or environmental change in their communities with a free online learning series. So I'm delighted to be here today with a few folks, including Geneviève Vallerand from Community Foundations of Canada. Hello, Geneviève. And also, go ahead. And my colleague Alexander Dirksen at Community Knowledge Exchange, who's based out of Vancouver.
Hi, everybody.
So over our time together, we're going to share a little more about the initiative and what you can expect over the course of our time together over the next few months. Alexander, my colleague, is on the line and available to assist if you need any help connecting the audio or any kind of tech connections over the course of our time together today. You can just pop a note in the chat box and you'll be able to respond quite quickly to help us with some connectivity things there. And just a reminder that the session is being recorded, so a copy of the recording will be made available online afterwards. If you have to leave or miss part of the session, or you have other folks that might be interested in learning what we're up to, a recording will be there. It'd be great if you could take a few moments to share in the chat box where you're from. Your name, maybe organization, a school, or an affiliation. Si vous voulez partager votre nom, dire bonjour dans la boîte à discussion, ça serait génial pour se connaître un peu mieux. Today, I'm coming to you from the traditional unceded territories of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation in Gatineau, Quebec, so just outside of Ottawa. For those of you who don't know this area, we sit at the confluences of the Ottawa, the Gatineau, and the Rideau rivers. And it's been a place of gathering and traditional gathering for many years and many generations. And it seems appropriate to just take a moment as we gather here today virtually, so not necessarily in person, but to think of our connectivity and the ways that we're connecting together now to really ground ourselves in where we are today. In this place where we are in our community. So just take a moment and think about that in terms of where you are and what your connection is to the place that you're currently at right now. And feel free to share if you know the traditional territories that you're on. If you'd like to share that in the chat box, it would be wonderful to see where people are coming from across the country today. So our session today will run for about 30 minutes or so. Our plan is to share a little bit more about the online learning series, introducing yourselves to people who are leading some of the exciting projects and communities across Canada, and to also get your thoughts on some potential topics you'd like to see us explore over the course of the learning series. So we're going to be sharing in a fluidly bilingual way. C'est la façon de travailler que j'aime le plus. Alors, soyez à l'aise de vous exprimer soit en anglais ou en français. On va répondre à des questions dans les deux langues et aussi faciliter la traduction des questions ou des discours pour vos pairs au cours de la session. So again, just feel free to engage in either English or French. We'll be able to translate and share reflections and comments and questions back in both languages. So allons-y. So what I'd like to do now is just take a few minutes and turn it over to my good friend and colleague, Geneviève Vallerand from Community Foundations of Canada, to talk a little bit more about the RBC Future Launch Community Challenge and part of that project. So Geneviève, over to you.
Merci. Thanks, Lee. It's nice to meet everybody on the call today. I recognize some names from some of our project documentation, so it's really wonderful to be able to see you and chat in real time. So I'm part of the communications team at CFC. We've been working with Lee, with some of you, with community foundations, with RBC to make this initiative possible. It's a really exciting moment in the project for everybody. When we started, this was a spark of an idea with a rather large check from RBC and a lot of big ambitions, and I think a need that we had heard from our research, from community foundations, and from youth, frankly, who said, we've got so many great ideas for how we can make a difference and how we can stand up in our communities. And so to see this project come to fruition, to see 210 youth-led initiatives in every single province and territory across Canada, so literally from coast to coast to coast, is absolutely gratifying for the team and I. So there are 185 community foundations involved. There are 210 projects. And I'm just going to give you one more number because to me it's remarkable and a testament to the work that so many of you are doing. There are more than 150,000 Canadians engaged in your projects collectively. I'm going to flip a link into the chat box here once I'm finished speaking that sums some of this up for you, and you should take a moment to appreciate and really celebrate your own work. Donc, pour les francophones, puisqu'on enregistre la session, on a des super statistiques. Le projet Défi communautaire objectif à venir RBC, en ce moment, finance près de 185 communautés et 210 projets. C'est vraiment remarquable. So, this is the start of a conversation. I'm going to not speak for very long, but we're really hoping that each month, you and many others are going to show up, have conversations together with us, tell us what you want to be talking about, and ultimately culminate in what we hope will be a really fantastic gathering in real life come the fall. So I'll stop there. If there are any questions, feel free to ask. Donc, si vous avez des questions, n'hésitez pas à nous faire signe. Merci.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Geneviève. I'd like to now, so as Geneviève mentioned, this funding from the generous support of RBC and the Future Launch Community Challenge. So that's a core number of you are probably affiliated directly with the challenge and some funded projects. But thanks to the generosity of RBC and the openness of CFC, this series is open to all youth and youth serving organizations across the country. So some of you might be joining us today who aren't part of that challenge program. Welcome. And really keen to engage a broad spectrum of youth and youth serving organizations in this work over the course of the next year. So that's a reminder and invitation to share this with others in your network and the community who might want to contribute and participate and engage in this, this learning journey with us over the next few months. What I'd like to do now is give a little bit of a preview and a conversation with one of the youth projects, who will give a little bit of a teaser about some of the work. I was really excited about this project and just looking at the list of some of the projects that were undertaken, and there's a lot of impressive stuff going on in different communities across the country. And in each of the sessions, you know, this is not about PowerPoints or presentations. It's really about conversations, dialogues, and engaging in really rich discussion. And we're going to be featuring youth who are leading projects in communities across the country in the sessions on the topics that we're going to be discussing. And I'm pleased today to welcome and introduce Hayley Mccullough. Hi, Hayley. I think you're on. Yeah. So lovely to talk to you again today. Who's the head of adult services at Grand Prairie Public Library. And Hayley, just have some notes here from your bio that she enjoys taking on special projects that make a difference in the community and having meaningful conversations that spark ideas. So I think we're going to do a couple of those things today. And one of those special projects that you're leading is actually one that's funded by the challenge called Project Full Stop. And I wonder, so this is a bit of a teaser or a trailer for Hayley's going to be joining us for an in-depth conversation a little bit later in the series, but I wanted to give you an opportunity to share a little bit about your project today and do that. So maybe, yeah, in a few words, could you share what your project's all about and how it might be addressing a local need in your community?
Yeah, absolutely. So Project Full Stop is our answer to respond to period poverty. And so what we're doing is we're placing free period products, so pads and tampons, in all of our library washrooms, both male and female, to give people, you know, the chance to experience a period with dignity. You know, just some stats real quick. 1 out of 3 people under the age of 25 say they've struggled to afford period products at some point in their life. And that's a lot of people. If you're sitting next to someone on your left, someone on your right, one of you can't afford pads or tampons. And so we wanted to really address that and start a conversation about period poverty. And we think that those products should be freely available everywhere in Canada.
Awesome. Yeah, I know in our conversation we had a couple of weeks ago, just talking about your project, we were talking about how the connections to that, and you know, that you're addressing a particular need, but also this idea of making products accessible in you know, different gendered spaces, and what that looks like in terms of the broader social conversation. And that's the conversation we're going to dive into in the series, in the conversation we're going to have in May around anti-oppression and working around the urgency of how do we create and work in spaces and provide, you know, dealing with oppression in different forms. So Hayley, I wonder if you could share just like what's one thing you're excited about from this learning series, and over the course
Yeah,
of the
I'm really hoping to learn about other successful projects who are funded by the RBC grants, to bring ideas back to our planning table and see like what other projects can we maybe tackle on, and what other solutions can the library address in our community. So I'm really interested to see what we can adapt here from other people and their successes.
Great. So stay tuned, everyone, for a deeper dive on into this topic a little bit later this spring. But thank you so much, Hayley, for joining us today and giving us a little bit of a preview of your project and the conversation that we have a little bit later.
Yeah, thank you so much.
So now I did promise, that we were going to be talking more conversations, but and less presentations. But I do have a few slides, insert grown here for everyone, that I just want to go over in terms of that have a little bit of information about the series, which is probably easier to share visually than for me to ramble on for a few minutes. So just give me a second while I set up screen sharing. And I'm going to share just a little bit more about this series. And Alexander, I'm flying a little blind on the tech side while I'm doing the full screen share. So I'll rely on you to track the comments and things as we go. So basically, you've all landed on the Zoom room today. So congratulations, you've made it. This is the platform we're going to be using. Really easy, super easy for us to facilitate interactive conversations and dialogues. And how the sessions are going to work is every month we're going to be hosting sessions featuring young leaders and expert practitioners who are going to be sharing lessons, reflections, and experience on how they've shifted power in their community. And again, the sessions are meant to be conversations, not presentations. So there'll be lots of time for plenary and small group discussions, giving you the chance to connect and learn from practitioners and other youth who are leading change in projects across Canada. Alors, les séances en français, ils vont être plus des dialogues et moins des présentations. Alors, vraiment la chance de faire de l'échange avec vos pairs, de partager des connaissances et des expériences avec d'autres projets et d'autres jeunes qui travaillent au secteur communautaire au travers du pays. So, again, a couple of notes here just in terms of the terms of engagement and how we'll be approaching this. That this is really designed for youth aged 15 to 29 and partner organizations that are working with youth, including those that are part of the challenge. We're going to be really mindful of creating safer spaces for and brave spaces for conversations, and we'll have a zero tolerance policy for any form of harassment, discrimination, or behavior by anyone on the platform or during the conversations. And we have a shared responsibility to each other and to the community to ensure that the spaces are safe, accessible, and equitable for all. At the beginning of each session, I don't have them outlined here, but we're going to agree to, they were actually included in the email description that we shared earlier. A series of community commitments. So we'll review those commitments in terms of how we will engage together as participants at the start of every one of our conversations and make any additions to that as we go. So we've identified, again, what to expect: more conversations, less presentations, the opportunity to connect with youth and youth-serving organizations and communities across the country, peer-driven learning and coaching, and learning from speakers and presenters with field expertise. So, à quoi s'attendre au cours des séances au cours de la prochaine année? Plus d'échanges, moins de présentations, la possibilité de connecter avec les jeunes et les organisations dans tout le Canada et l'apprentissage et le mentorat avec vos pairs. Ensuite, que le dialogue avec des invités qui ont l'expérience acquise sur le terrain. And so we've identified the topics for the first few sessions already, but we've only gone so far. And we were really leaning on the community to help us identify what are the things you would like to see us discuss and move forward together as the Youth Powering Community initiative. So our first session taking place, so our first full session where we're going to have full content is taking place on March 26th at 2:30 Eastern Daylight Time. And registration is available online now. On the Youth Powering Community page at Community Foundations of Canada's website, and also on Facebook. We'll also share a link to the registration page with everyone after this session. I'm going to turn to my colleague Alexander now to share, maybe he'll be helping to host that session. And I wondered, Alexander, if you could share a few words about what we might expect during that conversation.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Lee. And hello, everybody. So nice to meet you, and really looking forward to working and learning alongside you all over the course of this series. As you mentioned, the first dialogue will be really looking at building a decolonial mindset across projects. And so you'll see from the first few sessions that we have proposed, a lot of it is around equity, inclusion, and access. And so in this first conversation, really looking at what that means in terms of your work, really moving beyond just seeing reconciliation as something that's only for projects that are focused on Indigenous communities, and really building this into all of our work, and really starting to understand how colonial forces in all different types of forms, and I think even to Hayley's presentation, issues around equity and access, colonization takes many forms. And so really looking at how do we unpack that and break that down and make all of your incredible initiatives really accessible and open to the broadest number of folks, and in a way that allows all of those folks to bring their full selves into those conversations. So that will be the first session, and really looking forward to a shared dialogue with all of you around some of those themes.
Great. Thank you so much, Alexander. So I'm wondering now if people have any questions or comments. I'd love to open it up to the folks who have joined us today. What are some topics that you might be interested in us pursuing over the course of the series? So we've talked about a decolonial mindset. The following session is going to be on inner work for outer work. So what do we need to do as change makers to actually, in terms of taking care of ourselves in order to be able to do the work, and how do we show up in pursuit of change work? The session on anti-oppression, and then a series on telling your story in June. And then after that, we haven't figured out yet what the topics are going to be. So hoping for some dialogue and some exchange now. And I wonder if anyone wanted to, raise your virtual hand and share a topic that you're really interested in, or an issue that you'd like us to explore. And we'll of course follow this up with an email and soliciting ways in a different way. But I've just wondered, because there's a few of us on the line that might want to share. So if anyone wants to go, just unmute and let us know. And if everyone's feeling like we're not quite sure yet, that's okay too. So, no rush, no sense of, people have some ideas that they might want to think about afterwards. Take it from there. I wondered if there were, we're finishing up a little bit ahead of schedule, which is always, good to give people a bit of a gift of time in terms of what they're up to. But I wondered if there had any other comments, questions, or reflections you wanted to share before we wrap up. We're super excited to be hosting this series over the next year, and really keen to engage and continue to build a community of folks who are leading really interesting change in communities from coast to coast to coast. Geneviève, est-ce qu'il y avait des questions ou des commentaires de votre côté avant qu'on termine?
I'll just say that I think it's a great networking opportunity for those who are attending to get to maybe know some people and even collaborate on future projects together. So I'm really excited to see what that brings.
Excellent. Thanks, Hayley.
Maybe it's even a session on collaboration, networking. I know this platform allows for some fun breakout technology, so.
Yeah, it's as a host and facilitator, it's actually easier to facilitate breakouts virtually with this platform, because you can end the group right away and people have to come back to the main room. So there's no dawdling in the hallways on that front. But one of the things I can just share in a conversation I had with one of the participants from British Columbia who couldn't join us today, was they were keen to learn more about other projects who were doing similar work to them. So I encourage them to check out the map of other projects. But that might be one thing that we might want to facilitate with CFC, to think about how might we create little communities of practice for like-minded projects, or projects that are undertaking similar work to connect, because there's some value in terms of whether it's a target audience you're working with, or a context, or a geographic connection. So
there's just a note here from Amanda. So I'm assuming everybody who's made it onto the call today has somehow found their way here through Facebook or our website. But for anybody who may be watching us not in real time, visit communityfoundations.ca, and from there you'll be able to access the map. You'll see the list of projects. As I said, there are 210 of them. So please take a few minutes to see who your peers are if you're one of the youth leaders working on an RBC Future Launch project. And Amanda, my colleague, has also invited you to tweet or Facebook at us or Instagram us. Send us a DM if you have a topic that you're keen to explore, but maybe haven't quite landed on. Any idea is a good idea.
Absolutely. And one more sort of request for engagement is, even if you don't have a topic, if you have some questions or some experiences that relate to some of the topics that have already been identified and want to pose a question or offer a case study or a project that you're working on in the context of the work around decolonization, anti-oppression, the inner work, or the storytelling piece, please reach out to, because we want to be able to feature real practical case studies and examples over the course of our learning journey together. So with that, I'm gonna say school's out 9 minutes ahead of schedule. So thank you everyone for your participation. Merci à tout le monde de votre participation aujourd'hui. Merci Geneviève de la part de CFC, and Alexander, my colleague, for helping to kick us off with our quick launch session today. And we'll see you online for our first session later on this month.
Lee?
Yes.
Hi. We were actually just trying to come up with what we wanted to say. So like we're late,
perfect.
But is that okay?
Absolutely.
Okay. So I'm Robin. I'm from Indian Head, Saskatchewan. And
I'm Gracie.
Hi.
Terrence.
Welcome. Good to hear from you.
I'm Hannah.
Hi, Hannah.
anyway, so these guys, they're always trying to, I've taught them in the past, but I don't teach them anymore. We did a lot of inquiry, kind of land-based type of learning. And so they are doing this so that they can continue learning like that and continue learning, you know, Indigenous worldviews and just different from our colonial. I don't think these guys know what decolonization is, so I'm excited for them to learn that.
Excellent.
But they just want to figure out ways to break up our system so that they're not always sitting in different classrooms, you know, English, math, whatever. Like right now they're missing art where they're doing some beading for missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, which is cool. But they, you know, just doing things differently.
Yeah, so like just a different way of learning, a different way of approaching things, a bit more of an integrated way of doing things. And absolutely, that's a great recommendation. And it's so lovely to see you and to meet you virtually today. And we'll be happy to engage that. Maybe we can follow up offline, Robin, to get a little bit more context. And maybe I'm putting something out there. Maybe you guys could help host a session on some of this topic and some of this work. So I'm going to put that out there and we'll plant that seed today, and we can follow up with that offline. But it's lovely to meet you. I hope you guys are having a good day at school. And for everybody else too, any final comments or questions, reflections before we call it a conversation? Okay, well, thanks everyone. We'll see you online in a few weeks. Hayley, thanks again for sharing your story this afternoon with us. And for everyone else, thanks again for taking the time to be with us today. And we'll be online very soon. À la prochaine. Salut.
Lead reading. There we go.
Oh.
Whoops. Where?
On the left. Like,
Oh, got it.
That was amazing. I love it.